I was sitting at lunch with three men I'd known for over 40 years. We called ourselves friends. We'd been getting together once a month for decades, through job changes and retirements, through marriages and divorces, through all the seasons of life. And as I sat there that afternoon, something hit me that I couldn't ignore anymore. I was exhausted. Not physically, emotionally exhausted. I'd been at that table for an hour, and I hadn't smiled once. I hadn't felt any warmth or connection. I just felt drained, like someone had opened a valve and let all my energy leak out onto the restaurant floor. One guy spent the entire lunch complaining about his health, his children, the government, the weather. Nothing was right in his world, and he needed us all to know it in detail. Another spent his time reminiscing about the old days, telling the same stories we'd heard 100 times. Stories about a version of me that hadn't existed for 30 years. The third was already planning his next request, something he needed from me, some favor he was working up to asking. And I sat there, nodding and responding at appropriate moments, wondering why I kept doing this, why I kept showing up to lunches that left me feeling worse than when I arrived. That afternoon, I went home and sat on my porch and thought about my relationships differently than I ever had before. I started sorting through the people in my life, really examining what each relationship gave me and what it took from me. And I realized something that changed everything. At 70, you don't have unlimited time or energy. You have to choose carefully. You have to protect what you have left. And not everyone in your life deserves access to your final decades. That realization was uncomfortable, but it was also freeing. Today, I want to share what I learned about the 3 types of people you meet after 70, and why only one is worth your precious time. Here's something that happens when you get older. You start to see time differently. When you're young, time feels infinite. You can waste hours, days, years, because there's always more coming. But at 70, you know the truth. Time is not infinite. The years ahead are fewer than the years behind. Every hour you spend with someone is an hour you're not getting back. Every bit of emotional energy you give away is energy you might not have to spare. This awareness changes how you should think about relationships. But most of us don't change. We keep maintaining relationships out of habit, out of obligation, out of guilt. We keep showing up for people who drain us because we've known them for decades. We keep tolerating dynamics that make us miserable because ending them feels too dramatic, too unkind, too final. We treat our remaining years like we treated our youth, as if we have endless time to waste on people who don't add anything to our lives. I was guilty of this for a long time. I maintained relationships I should have ended years earlier. I spent countless hours with people who left me feeling empty or frustrated. I told myself, that's just what you do. You stick with people, you honor old friendships, you don't abandon someone just because they've become difficult. But I was wrong. That loyalty to the wrong people was stealing time and energy from the right people and from myself. When you're 70, quality matters more than quantity. Having 5 deep, nourishing relationships is better than having 20 superficial or draining ones. But most of us never make that calculation. We never examine our relationships with clear eyes and ask, is this person adding to my life or taking from it? Today, I'm going to help you make that calculation, because you deserve to spend your remaining years with people who deserve to be in them. Let me tell you about the 3 types of people I've identified after 70 years of life and relationships. These aren't exhaustive categories, but I think they capture the most important distinctions. Once you learn to see people through this lens, you'll never unsee it. And you'll be able to make much better decisions about where to invest your limited time and energy. The first type is what I call the energy vampires. These are the people who drain you. Every interaction leaves you more tired than when it started. They're not necessarily bad people. They're not evil or malicious. But something about how they relate to the world pulls energy out of everyone around them. You know the energy vampires in your life. They're the ones who complain constantly. Nothing is ever good enough. Their children are disappointing. Their health is terrible. The world is going to hell. They can find the negative in any situation, and they need to share that negativity with you in exhaustive detail. Being around them feels like sitting in a dark cloud. Their mood becomes your mood. Their pessimism becomes your burden. Then there are the takers, the ones who always need something. Their friendship comes with an endless stream of requests. Can you drive me here? Can you help me with this? Can you lend me that? The relationship is always flowing one direction, from you to them. And if you try to step back, if you try to say no, they make you feel guilty. They remind you of what you owe them. They have an endless ability to need more than you can give. There are also the drama creators, the ones who always have a crisis. Their lives are a constant soap opera, and they need you to be part of the audience, if not the cast. Every conversation is about their latest conflict, their current emergency, their most recent outrage. They pull you into emotional storms that have nothing to do with your life, and you emerge drenched and exhausted while they've moved on to the next drama. I had a friend named Harold who was a textbook energy vampire. We'd known each other since our 30s, worked together for years, stayed in touch after we both retired. But Harold had become increasingly negative over time. Every conversation was a recitation of everything wrong in his life and the world. His wife didn't appreciate him. His kids were ungrateful. His doctors were incompetent. The government was corrupt. I'd leave our lunches feeling heavy, like I'd taken on a weight that wasn't mine to carry. I'd go home and need to rest, not physically, but emotionally. Margaret used to notice it. She'd say, "You saw Harold today, didn't you?" Because she could tell from my mood when I walked in the door. For years, I kept seeing Harold because I felt obligated. We had history. You don't abandon an old friend just because they're going through a hard time. But Harold wasn't going through a hard time. Harold had made negativity his permanent residence. Every year was the same. Every conversation was the same. The hard time never ended because it wasn't a phase. After that lunch I described in my opening, I made a decision about Harold. I stopped reaching out. I stopped accepting his invitations. I didn't do it dramatically. I didn't have a confrontation. I just quietly withdrew. At first, I felt guilty. What kind of person abandons an old friend? But then I noticed something. Without Harold's negativity in my life, I felt lighter. I had more energy. I was more optimistic. His absence made room for better things. Harold noticed eventually. He called and asked why I'd been so unavailable. I was honest with him. I said I'd been focusing on relationships that felt more positive and that our conversations had been leaving me drained. He was offended. He accused me of being unsupportive. He reminded me of everything he'd done for me over the years, all the classic guilt tactics of the energy vampire. But I held firm. And after a few weeks, he stopped calling. That was 2 years ago. The second type of person is what I call the nostalgics. These are people who are stuck in the past. They knew you decades ago, and they refuse to see who you've become. Every interaction with them is filtered through who you were at 30 or 40 or 50. They tell the same old stories. They reference the same old dynamics. They expect you to be the same person you were when Jimmy Carter was president. The nostalgics aren't trying to be hurtful. They're not consciously limiting you. But they can only see you through the lens of the past. If you were the wild one in your youth, they still see you as wild, even though you've been settled for decades. If you were the responsible one, they still expect you to be responsible for everyone and everything. If you were shy, they're shocked when you speak up. They've frozen you in time, and they resist any evidence that you've changed. This type is particularly common with old friends and family members. People you've known your whole life often have the hardest time seeing who you are now. They remember the version of you they bonded with, and they want that version back. Your growth threatens their understanding of you. Your changes feel like betrayals of the relationship they thought they had. I have a brother like this. Thomas still treats me like the kid brother he used to tease 50 years ago. He still brings up embarrassing stories from my childhood at every family gathering. He still assumes I'm less capable than he is, less sophisticated, less worldly. He relates to me as if I'm perpetually 25, even though I'm 70 and he's 74. For years, I tried to show Thomas who I'd become. I'd share my accomplishments, my perspectives, my growth, but he never seemed to hear it. He'd nod and then immediately reference something from our childhood. It was like talking to someone who wasn't in the same time zone. I was here, in the present, and Thomas was stuck 45 years ago. Eventually, I accepted that Thomas wasn't going to change. He needed me to be his kid brother, because that's how he understood the world. Seeing me as an equal, as a fully realized adult with my own wisdom and accomplishments, would require him to rethink everything. He wasn't capable of it, or wasn't willing to do the work. So I adjusted my expectations. I stopped trying to make Thomas see the real me. When I'm around him, I accept that I'm interacting with his idea of me, not with someone who truly knows me. It's not ideal. It's a little lonely, but it's better than constantly frustrating myself trying to change something that won't change. The nostalgics aren't worth much of your time, because they're not really relating to you. They're relating to a ghost, a memory, a version of you that no longer exists. You can maintain these relationships at a distance if you want, but don't invest deeply in them. They're not seeing you, and they probably never will. Now let me tell you about the third type, the only type worth your time. I call them the present companions. These are the people who see you as you are right now, today. They're not interested in who you were at 40. They're not trying to drain your energy or create drama. They're just present with you, accepting you as you are, offering genuine companionship without strings attached. You know you're with a present companion when the conversation flows easily, when you feel energized rather than drained by the interaction, when you can be fully yourself without performance or pretense, when there's mutual respect and genuine interest in each other's lives, when you leave feeling better than when you arrived. Present companions don't need you to be anything other than what you are. They're not asking you to fix their problems or validate their grievances. They're not holding you to an outdated image from decades ago. They're simply here, now, enjoying your company as you enjoy theirs. These relationships feel easy because they are easy, not shallow, but uncomplicated, not superficial, but undemanding. I have a friend named Frank who is a perfect present companion. We met about 6 years ago at a volunteer activity. We had no shared history, no decades of baggage. He knew me only as I am now, a 70-year-old man with certain interests and values and ways of being. And he liked that person, not the younger version, not some potential better version, just me, as I am. When I'm with Frank, I feel seen. He asks about my current life, my current thoughts, my current feelings. He shares his own without dumping or complaining. We talk about what we're reading, what we're thinking about, what matters to us at this stage of life. Our conversations are present tense, grounded in who we are now rather than who we used to be. I also feel respected with Frank. He values my perspective. He's interested in my opinions. He treats me as an equal, as someone worth knowing. There's no hierarchy, no old dynamic we're playing out, no roles we're stuck in. Just two men enjoying each other's company. And I feel free with Frank. I don't have to manage his emotions or meet his expectations. I don't have to perform a version of myself that matches his preconceptions. I can just be, which sounds simple, but is actually rare. Most relationships have requirements, conscious or unconscious. Present companions don't. So how do you identify which type someone is? It's actually pretty simple once you start paying attention. Ask yourself these questions after you spend time with someone. Did I feel energized or drained? Did they ask about my life or only talk about theirs? Did they see me as I am now or reference who I used to be? Did I feel better or worse than before we met? Was the relationship easy or did it require work? The answers will tell you what type you're dealing with. Energy vampires drain you. Nostalgics don't see you. Present companions leave you feeling good. It's not more complicated than that. We just don't usually ask these questions because we feel obligated to maintain relationships regardless of how they make us feel. Now let me give you permission. Permission to let go of the energy vampires and the nostalgics. Not cruelly, not with confrontation or drama, but simply by withdrawing your energy and time. You don't have to announce that you're ending the friendship. You don't have to explain yourself or justify your decision. You just stop reaching out. You become less available. You let the relationship fade. This feels wrong to many people. We're taught that relationships are sacred, that loyalty means sticking with people no matter what, that abandoning old friends is a character flaw. But here's what I've learned. At 70, your time is too valuable to spend on people who drain you or refuse to see you. Every hour you spend with an energy vampire is an hour you're not spending with a present companion. Every ounce of energy you give to a nostalgic is energy you can't give to someone who actually knows you. You're not obligated to sacrifice your well-being on the altar of old loyalty. You've earned the right to be selective. You've earned the right to protect your remaining years from people who don't add to them. So how do you find more present companions? This is harder, especially at our age. Making new friends in your 70s isn't easy, but it's not impossible. The key is to put yourself in situations where you can meet people who know you only as you are now. Volunteer activities, classes, groups organized around interests you have today, church communities, senior centers, any context where you're meeting people fresh, without decades of history, without old roles to play. I've found that the best present companions are often people I've met recently. Not always. I have some old friends who've grown along with me and still see who I am today. But many of my most nourishing relationships are with people I've met in the last 10 or 15 years. People who don't know the younger me. People who relate only to the me that exists now. There's something freeing about that. I want to tell you the full story of letting go of Harold, because it wasn't easy, and I think it's important to acknowledge the difficulty. Harold and I had been friends for almost 40 years. We'd supported each other through hard times. We'd celebrated each other's successes. There was real history there, real connection, real shared experience. When I started pulling away, I felt like a traitor. Who abandons a friend of 40 years? What kind of person walks away from that kind of history? I told myself I was being selfish, shallow, unable to handle a little negativity. I almost reached out to him several times just to relieve my own guilt. But then I'd remember how I felt after seeing him. The heaviness, the depletion, the way his darkness seemed to cling to me for hours afterward. And I'd ask myself if I wanted to feel that way for the rest of my life. If I wanted my remaining years to include regular doses of Harold's misery. The answer was no, and that no had to matter more than the guilt. The relief I felt after I stopped seeing Harold was profound. It was like putting down a heavy backpack I'd been carrying so long I forgot it was there. Suddenly, I had energy I didn't know I was missing. Suddenly, my mood was more stable. Suddenly, I could see how much Harold had been costing me, energy I couldn't afford to spend. I felt guilty for a few months, but the guilt faded. What replaced it was peace. The peace of having protected myself. The peace of having made a hard choice that was right for my life. the peace of having prioritized my well-being over obligation. Looking back on the relationships I've maintained and the ones I've released, I see a clear pattern. The relationships that survived are the ones that adapted. The friends who grew as I grew. The family members who could see who I became instead of who I was. The people who met me as I am, rather than demanding I stay frozen in the past. I'm more selective now than I've ever been. Some might call that antisocial or cold, but I call it wisdom. I know what my time and energy are worth. I know how it feels to spend them on the wrong people, and I know how it feels to spend them on the right ones. The difference is so stark that there's no going back. My social circle is smaller now than it was 10 years ago, but the quality is incomparably better. Every relationship I maintain is one I've chosen consciously. Every person in my life adds something rather than takes something. Every interaction leaves me feeling equal to or better than before. That's the result of being selective. That's the result of applying these categories and acting on what I see. I don't regret releasing the energy vampires and the nostalgics. Not one of them. I regret how long it took me to see what they were costing me. I regret all the years I spent obligated instead of intentional. But the past is the past. What matters now is that I understand. I see clearly, and I choose accordingly. If you're watching this, I want you to think about the people in your life. Really think about them. Who drains you? Who refuses to see who you've become? And who accepts you as you are, right now, today? Be honest with yourself. Not all relationships are equal. Not all friends deserve your precious remaining time. You have permission to be selective. You have permission to withdraw from people who don't add to your life. You have permission to invest deeply in the few rather than superficially in the many. Quality over quantity isn't just acceptable at this age, it's essential. Look for the present companions, the ones who see you, the ones who energize you, the ones who make you feel good about yourself and about life. These are the people worth your time. These are the relationships worth protecting and nurturing. These are the people who deserve to be part of your remaining years. And gently release the others. The energy vampires who drain you. The nostalgics who can't see you. Let them go without drama, without guilt, without apology. You've earned the right to protect yourself. Use it. If this resonated with you, please share it. I think many people our age are trapped in draining relationships they feel obligated to maintain. Maybe this can help them see that they have choices, that they don't have to spend their final decades serving people who don't serve them. Subscribe to this channel if you haven't. Every week I talk about what it really means to age with wisdom and intention, the hard truths and the unexpected freedoms, the things nobody tells you but everybody needs to know. Until next time, take care of yourself. And remember, at 70, your time is precious. Spend it only on people who deserve it.